Hello, my name is Reina and today I'm going to teach you how to prep your fiber for easy drafting. So here I have some yummy superwash merino. This has been hand dyed and that can bring a little bit of an issue with it, but I'll explain when we start drafting. Look at it. It's the magical fluff. Woo! So this is it. This is what is called roving. This has been carded and pulled into a nice long piece of wool from which you can draft while you're spinning. Now, one of the issues that I see many new spinners have is that they don't have much control over how thick your spinning is. And I'll explain. So here I took out a bit of roving that is quite thick. As you can see, the fibers are sort of stuck together. And that is not an uncommon issue with hand-dyed fibers. It basically is because the fibers have been wetted after they've been pulled into a roving. So same as your hair, if you don't brush your hair and let it dry, your hair will dry in clumps. And so does roving. So in order to remedy this, it's easiest to just pull those clumps apart and basically make your roving wider. This will give the roving much more air. And much more air in roving means it's easier to draft. The more compact your roving is, the more difficult it is to spin evenly. The next thing we're going to do is called pre-drafting your fibers. Pre-drafting is the practice of making it lots easier to spin your fibers. I pre-draft most of my fibers, because it just makes it easier to spin. It takes a little bit of time, a little bit of practice, but in the end, you will love it. So here we go. You hold your roving with one hand. You hold the end of your roving with your other hand, and you start slightly pulling out the fibers until you start to feel that they are slipping, right? Then you move your hand up, and you continue doing this. You will get a much thinner strand this way. You will see that it becomes quite transparent at some points. And that is what you want. You want that transparency. So all these fibers have loosened up a little bit and it makes it much easier to spin. Now, let's do this again on this red. First of all, here I see a clump of fibers. So I'm gonna pull those fibers apart and make sure that they are lined up. Because that's what you want. You want your fibers to be lined up. And look, even by pulling it out, it becomes quite translucent. So if you really wanted, you could spin this. But most fibers aren't this fluffy, so this is just the benefit of having a superwash merino. Now let's pre-draft this. Now, one thing that might happen while you're pre-drafting is that you pull too hard on the fibers. Usually it's because you have put your hands too close together. You need to have that length of fiber to be able to pull apart. Next thing that might happen is you're struggling. This is very compacted all of a sudden. And you might pull too hard and you break it. Now you can try to line it up, but this will not stick on its own. So best practice is to just roll up what you have. I always make rolls because they look pretty. And save this as a cloud to spin from and continue with the rest of the fiber. So you now know how to pre-draft your fibers before you start spinning. This will make your spinning a lot easier. So let's take this to the spindle and show you how easy it gets. This has been the project that I've been working on, and as you can see, I've got a fair bit of fiber on the spindle already. We're going to add some pre-drafted fiber to show you how to draft consistently. So this is my spindle, and I just took a bit out as a lead for the twist to run into before we start drafting. The roving, I'm going to flip over my wrist so it's not in the way while I'm spinning. I'm going to give this twist. I'm going to move up a little bit so that I get to the piece of roving. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to let it slide up. So drafting, sliding, drafting, sliding. Now my spindle has stopped spinning because I didn't give it a crap ton of spin this time. So we're going to do it again. We're going to give it spin. We're going to move to the top of the spindle. We're going to draft. We're going to slide, draft, slide, draft, slide. And you can see how little I draft. It's really not a whole lot. So my spindle left the floor now. Is on the floor. So I'm going to add a little bit of spin. This is also becoming a spindle tutorial now. Adding a little bit of spin, letting it twist, take the spindle, and we're going to wrap this yarn up onto the spindle. We're going to wrap it up. So we're going to roll it up onto the spindle on my leg. And hook it again. So again, we're going to draft and let the twist move up. Draft, let the twist move up. Draft, let the twist move up. Draft, let the twist move up. And as you can see, I'm not struggling while I'm drafting. Not at all. And that is because I pre-drafted my roving to make it easier for me to spin it. And that's it. If you're spinning on a spindle or a wheel, this technique will make your yarn thinner and more consistent. So you can spin something like this, which is a 3-ply yarn, and it's not that thick. Like, this is a beautiful yarn. It sparkles, you cannot see it, but the colors are amazing. And this is spun using that technique. It really is a lot easier. I hope you try it, and if you do, leave a comment below telling me how it went. You can look me up on Twitch and join our Discord if you want to show your yarns or have more help. We're a really lovely community, and I hope to see you soon. Thanks for watching. Oh, and don't forget to subscribe and click like and all that jazz. Apparently you're supposed to say that, but I don't really know if that's true. So I hope to see you next time for another tutorial or some weirdness going on in my life. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye!